Welcome back. Talking about development in Nashville. Is there a better way to do development? And does a new bill that is now law, just passed by the Metro Council, does it help us, I guess, better understand what businesses are getting incentives? We have with us Odessa Kelly, Vonda McDaniel, and several calls. So let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Henderson. Hello, Henderson.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Yes, my name is Henderson. I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
If I understand the latest and the bill itself, it deals, I think the primary function of it is transparency. I retired from the Metro government as the superintendent in Metro Parks Department. Unfortunately, my last 8 or 9 years of that was during the period of economic downturn. So we, me along with the rest of the leadership team, spent most of our time trying to keep the department going and unfortunately laying off people because of continuous budget cuts because of lack of money.
Right.
Only to find out in the last year or so of the mayor at that time's tenure is that monies that should have been going to departments in Metro government were being used to entice businesses to come and settle in Nashville. I believe if that transparency bill had been in place then, I believe that members of the Metro Council and certainly Metro employees would have had a great deal of problems with that happening.
Okay. So you're happy to see this?
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you were survey Metro employees, I think they would be glad to hear it also to understand that all of us are for, all Nashvillians are for Nashvillians, or should be anyhow. But I think that the idea of money that should be going to education, libraries, parks, and so on, when that money is secretly used to entice businesses to come to Nashville, I think there's something wrong with that picture.
Thank you. What do you think of what he's saying there?
I think that last caller is right on point. I don't know how many times we heard from council members saying that they didn't have enough information to make wise decisions on who they rewarded these incentives or these grants to, you know, and that may speak to just exactly what that caller was talking about. That's
frustrating.
It is.
And I've heard that they didn't have enough information, but they're voting on it. So you're frustrated that they didn't have the information, but I guess they feel like they had to vote on it quickly and that kind of thing. There's always the threat that the company is not going to come to Nashville and go to some other city, right. and I guess that's the. What do you think about what he's saying?
So I think that transparency is the point that. At this point, because we're doing so well as a city, we have the luxury of being a little bit more critical about the kinds of employees we want to bring to our city with our tax dollars. And so we believe this Do Better bill does that, and we're glad to hear that members of the community also support it. It's just a first step.
So it's the first step. And I feel like what you do want are businesses that only give a living wage or higher to get incentives. Is that maybe your goal, or is that not right? Yeah,
I mean, exactly. I mean, as the city voted on the local hire amendment a while back, if you remember that, right? And that was a bill specifically calling for us to increase our workforce, right? So we're talking about those type of things that we want here in the city, right? As a Nashvillian, I shouldn't have to walk on eggshells to say, yeah, I want what's best for me and for my neighbor. And that's exactly what the transparency is asking people to do, is asking for you to be accountable for your neighbor, right? And we should do those things.
So if a hotel is going to get tax incentives, and not every one of those jobs is going to be a living wage, they'll have several jobs that are not a living wage. What would you then do about that?
So I would like to see their workforce plan. You know, what they're going to do to develop their workers from entry-level jobs to jobs that make a better wage. Like I said, we understand that they're entry-level jobs, but there should also be a pathway to improve your earnings, especially in a market like Nashville.
Okay. And then you could say, you could go to your council member and say, if they don't do this, I don't want you to support it.
That's correct.
And it's just not hotels, you know, let's not just look at that. We're talking about construction companies, you know, as well. And that is general contractors all the way down through the subcontractors. We want everyone to provide a living wage to those who are here in Nashville. And it's not just that. We want jobs, like she said, that create pathways. You know, how many people do y'all know out there who've been working in Nashville hard every day, 40 hours a week, week after week, and still can't make ends meet? We're talking about that person. Whether they're your family member, whether they're your neighbor, they're a Nashvilleian, and they deserve the right to have a better quality of life.
Is Nashville, does it have a bigger problem than other cities? Or is Nashville in a better position to deal with this than other cities?
So all over the country, what we're seeing is that this growth and gentrification is producing the same kinds of results. And that's one thing that the coalition that Odessa and I both belong to has been beneficial in looking at best practices around the country and trying to incorporate how they're doing good development, responsible development, and trying to duplicate some of those things in our community to make it better.
Have you been concerned that the state comes in from time to time? And how did that impact, I guess, the way this bill evolved? I mean, the state has come in and taken the right to oversee several things away from the Metro Council. So here the Metro Council's passed this, but did that, the fact the state may come in and change this or that, did it impact the evolution of this bill?
I would say absolutely. Preemption is definitely a problem, and unfortunately the legislators who preempt the toolbox of things that we utilize to try to improve standards in our cities are things that in most of the places where they live are a non-issue. In fact, in Franklin, once the local hire provision was preempted at the state level, they had to go back in surrounding counties and kind of reword some of the things that were already in place there. So preemption is not only a problem in a state like Nashville, in a city like Nashville, but all over the country in progressive cities where we're trying to do things to improve the quality of life for working families. We have to run into that preemption wall.
All right, we have to take, well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say also, with that said, though, that doesn't mean that we're going to hold back any. You know, Stand Up Nashville is here because we represent the people, and we're not holding back. You know, we're not afraid to call out things when they need to be called out. We have elected officials, we have people here in the city that say they want to increase the city, well, we're going to hold them accountable for it.
All right, we'll take a break, come back, wrap everything up, be back right after this.